This is Perch, and talking about limited series. So the limited series is something that people say it's as old as the comic industry itself. That's not exactly true. You didn't have, notable limited series runs. You just had comics that would come out and then end until more kind of later years. The 70s, the 80s started to get more in the realm of actual limited series, and that's where the title from issue one was really tagged as issue number one of four or one of eight or a limited series, a maxi series, a bunch of just different ways of saying this is a contained story. And then in the kind of later in the 90s, kind of the early 2000s, there became this logic that got passed around. A lot of people tag it to David Gabriel at Marvel, but it's hard to say if that's true or not or accurate. It doesn't. I kind of I'm skeptical of blaming David Gabriel for this. It doesn't really fit inside his general purview and kind of what he cares about. Not exactly anyway, but this is the comment came out that we don't brand things limited series because if it's called a limited series, then people won't buy it. It carries with it kind of a message of this is a comic you don't need to care about. It's not going to impact the main series. So if we are wandering into something, if we're doing a story and we know it's a limited series, then we don't want to, we're just going to come out and then it will end in 5 issues. And we don't ever say it's a limited series. It just, we do our run and we're done. And the other bit of wisdom there was that if the title does well, if it turns out that it does better than people expect, well, it then gives us an easy way to just extend the limited series into a full-blown series, and there's not confusion in the channel and the marketplace. We don't have to remarket and explain that things have changed. And so it's better to just to leave it open, to not really say what it is we're doing, and just the market will figure it out. And then in the last 2 years or so, there's been at least a little movement on that front. People are starting to question that wisdom, and we are starting to see kind of the limited series format be highlighted again of explaining what it is. From a store perspective, I can say that the idea that customers wouldn't buy something because it was a limited series is absolutely false. If the limited series is, if it's marketed properly, if it's got good creative talent, if the story matters, people will buy it. If the story doesn't matter, if it's in the 90s, there were a bunch of limited series that were tossed out there that were by kind of B creator teams or people who are clearly not part of the main title. And on top of that, it was abundantly clear that this limited series was out of continuity, didn't matter. Whatever threat the hero was facing would be forgotten and erased. And those titles, absolutely there was a sales hit to those titles, but I would argue it had absolutely nothing to do with being tagged a limited series and everything with being obvious that the title didn't matter. And one reason I can say that so confidently is that, first off, not labeling it a limited series did not help. When you come out with a brand new number one issue of a, who knows how long this is going to be series, and then you just cancel it after 5 issues. I mean, the readers are smart enough to figure that out. I put it this way: nobody is fooled. There's no fooling anyone about what you're doing there. And it did, so the limited series has gone through these different evolutions as time has come by, which is curious because over the last 10 years, we have seen the idea of shortened seasons, things on HBO and then things on Netflix and streaming services. We've seen these ideas of these stories that are contained within a season. And on television, there's always been seasons. There's always a fall premiere and then sweeps week, and then kind of season ending in May usually. So that's always been something that TV has grappled with. But people who watch those shows, they don't go into it saying, "Oh, I'm not going to tune into this season of Friends. I'm going to come back next season and see if Friends is better." You don't have that kind of thinking. It's a story. If the story is good and the acting is good, then people will keep going. If things like 3.5 Men or 2.5 Men, whatever that stupid show was. I don't know. You had kind of big cast members leave the show. You have Charlie Sheen leave the show, and yet the show can continue on. or not, depending on was the new season successful in bringing in new talent to keep people attracted to it. Comics are the same way, and it feels like if I'm predicting over the next 5 years, we're going to see somebody within the marketing, sales, or areas of these big publishers kind of finally like wake up to the fact that the model that they need to copy is one that exists. It's out there. It's right there for them to see, and that is what Netflix and these other groups are doing. And you will see comics operate more like seasons. They're kind of done that way now, but you'll see these titles come out, and you'll see people sign up for a 6 issue or a 12 issue run. I think the days of seeing a 4 issue limited series are coming to an end. I think we're going to see 6 issues or 12 issues. Those nicely fit into trades. People know how to market them. They're just, it's cleaner, easier. And I think you'll see these creators hopefully signed on to do at least a complete run. The thing that worries me about not just limited series, but just how titles are treated in general, is the way that in particular Marvel will bring on a type A creator, a not type A, but a good creator, a strong, a name known worthy creator, a noteworthy. I'm just talking like crazy talk today. I should be drinking. Anyway, that they bring in these big creators for like 1 or 2 issues, and then they rapidly pull them out. What went on with the return of Wolverine was very, destructive from a sales perspective. And I think that's, if there's something to be said for limited series, and if consumers trust them and kind of how they're marketed and how they're built, if there's one thing that's true, it's that there's been some deliberate erosion of comics by hacky, bad faith sales and marketing and kind of bait and switch techniques of bringing on a creator, relaunching for a #1, killing it after 4 issues. Unfortunately, this idea that let's not label it a limited series and then just end the series after 5 issues, 6 issues if it's not doing well. Unfortunately, that caused way more harm to trust in the comic line than any kind of branding that said limited series. Now, unfortunately, if you leave it ambiguous, then now there's a bit of an unknown question mark for all the comics. So whenever you're relaunching, or not relaunching, whenever you're launching a new title, there's a built-in skepticism that you hear in the shop from customers to say, "Oh, it's another new #1. I wonder how long this is going to go." And first of all, you never used to hear that comment. Now you hear that comment for pretty much any new character. If there's any kind of new character or new team or anything, that's the comment that comes out. And then to double down on that, we're starting to hear these comments come out for things like Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So the Tom Taylor Spider-Man book comes out, and there's this built-in, is this a limited series? Is this going to keep going? Zdarsky was just on a Spider-Man comic, and then it ended and it's relaunched. So is this basically a limited series? You're getting that skepticism now for your top properties, for Spider-Man and Iron Man and all the rest. That's a bad sign. It means you've played around too much with this, not explaining what you're doing. And in many cases, the publisher should go the opposite direction. If you're not confident in a title at all, just call it a limited series, call it a season 1, call it something that does speak to it being finite. And then you at least send a message to the customers to say, hey, this is a comic that's going to come, and it has an end point. So if you're going to buy into it, you're not buying into it forever. We're telling you right up front, this is a limited series. And if you really love it, make a lot of noise, and maybe it can get extended. Back in the 80s, it used to be kind of a source of pride where the publishers would say, because you demanded it, it's now an ongoing series. Classic case was West Coast Avengers, which actually started as a limited series. There was a lot of good sales, good pickup. The newsstand went for it, the direct market went for it, and the response was very strong. So then they got to issue hey, because you demanded it, we're keeping going. This comic is going to continue. And that was a big plus. The fans felt like they were being listened to. It gave you something else as a publisher to market. It's just win across the board, win-win. and there was no kind of negative, suspicious feelings built into the customers that you would get when you feel like you're pulling the rug out from under them with a surprise cancellation. Anyway, so that's the deal with limited series. I think there's a lot that can be done, and the faster some of these publishers start just thinking like kind of their bigger brothers and sisters in the entertainment industry, the better probably things will be. But what do you think? Do you like limited series? Were you turned off by limited series as a concept? Um, did you not buy for that reason? I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, please like, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. YouTube has a way of knocking people off for no apparent reason. So would love to have you as a regular. So thank you very much for listening, and let me know what else you'd like me to talk about.